My husband, Scott, and an unknown woman were seen leaving the maternity clinic where my friend works. No way. Scott, you were having an affair? I just found out my husband is cheating on me, and now it looks like his mistress is expecting. In a panic, I rushed over to confront them, and the woman Lucy boldly declared, "I'm carrying your husband's child. Please, divorce him quickly." She didn't care at all, not even when I was right there, his wife, asking for a divorce, only thinking about herself. I was dumbfounded by Lucy's audacity. There seemed to be no point in being married to Scott any longer. Fed up with everything, I just gave in and said, "Fine, if that's what Scott wants, let's do it." They looked at each other, grabbed hands, and started celebrating. "So, we don't have to hide our trip anymore, yay!" Trips?
Actually, we're going on a honeymoon next week. I was going to lie that it was a business trip, but no need to sneak around anymore.
Now that I've agreed to the divorce, my husband and his mistress are acting all brave, telling me everything, even things I didn't want to hear. Their selfish behavior continued. I had told Scott we should talk once, but days passed without him returning home. Were they planning to confess after their honeymoon? That was what I thought until one day. This is unbelievable. I received 33 filled-out divorce forms in the mail, complete with photos of Scott and his mistress, clearly intended to torment me. Eager to divorce, they sent these during their trip. She didn't give us a chance to talk, just sending these forms, jumping to divorce. You've got some nerve. Be prepared. Something inside me snapped. My name is Vanessa. I work as a nurse in a hospital. I met Scott about 3 years ago at a friend's wedding. Unlike me, who is shy and not good at making conversation, Scott was the life of the party and stood out among the guests, which drew my attention. As the reception ended, everyone moved to the venue for the after party. It was an open seating arrangement, and I sat at a corner island seat with my high school classmate, Mia. Soon, Scott took the seat next to mine.
"I hope it's okay I sat next to you,"
he said, feeling overwhelmed by his forwardness. I was in full introvert mode. Still, Scott kept talking to me.
"Do you have a boyfriend?"
"No."
"Where do you work?"
"Well..."
"Oh, and how old are you? The same age as me?"
He bombarded me with questions. Overwhelmed by Scott, one of his friends teased him.
"Dude, you're grilling her too much because you're interested, huh? She looks shocked."
Realizing I was uncomfortable, Scott blushed deeply and apologized.
"I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to scare you. Just, I was being curious." "Hey, he's been saying you're cute since the wedding. He's a good guy, so why don't you give him your number?"
Encouraged by Scott's friend, I agreed to exchange my number since I had no boyfriend or someone I was interested in at the time.
"I'll definitely call you,"
Scott promised happily, showing off his charming dimples. The next day, true to his word, Scott invited me out for a meal. When we first met, he seemed like a goofy party animal, but when I hung out with him, he stammered shyly.
"So, got any favorite foods?"
Scott is just too cute with his shyness and dimples. So we went on several dates and eventually started dating. After about 6 months, Scott proposed, and we quickly decided to get married. Moving in together raised a concern for me. So, about the expenses for the wedding and moving in together, I found it difficult to say, so I avoided being direct and told him, while fidgeting a bit. Given my job as a nurse, I earn a decent salary, which is generally considered above average. Scott had a job at a manufacturer's office, making less money each month than me and getting smaller bonuses. I wondered if it bothered him that his wife earned more, but Scott casually suggested,
"Why not split it 50-50? Right now I earn less and honestly don't have much saved, but I'll work hard not to be outdone by you, Vanessa."
My worries seemed unnecessary. I was surprised by how positive Scott was. But another concern lingered. I have night shifts, with my regular hours. Could you help with the housework? Due to my work as a nurse, my working hours are quite irregular. Honestly, there are many aspects of household chores that we need to share in order to manage them. So having someone who would share these chores properly was very important to me.
Housework? That's something we should do together. If you're good with easy meals, I can cook and I'm happy to help with cleaning and laundry as well. Let's support each other.
It seems this was also an unnecessary worry, just like the conversation about salaries. Scott had lived on his own before, so he was quite capable and didn't see household chores as a burden. Me and Scott got married smoothly after my worries disappeared. Both our friends and our parents celebrated our new life together, and we started our married life smoothly. Once we began living together, Scott kept his promise and actively participated in household chores. After my night shift, I returned home to find pasta in the fridge. Scott had done the cleaning and laundry without any issues. Whenever I cooked, he would eat heartily, exclaiming,
"Delicious! Is there more?"
On days off, he would take me out on dates to various places. It was indeed a blissful time. The only thing missing was our plan to get a child, which turned out to be more challenging than I had expected. I thought getting pregnant would be a breeze after getting hitched, but it's not as easy as I thought. I bet a bunch of folks think the same thing. Unfortunately, reality was not so forgiving. A year into our marriage, I still wasn't pregnant. I was 28 at the time and had hoped to have a couple of children before turning 30, a desire I had already discussed with Scott. However, Scott seemed in no rush and casually suggested,
"Let's not hurry."
I guess you can't really force yourself to get pregnant. It's been bothering me how we haven't been as affectionate with each other since we got married. After all, without that, getting pregnant is impossible. At first, we slept together in the same room, but due to my job, I would often return home late at night, occasionally waking Scott. He suggested,
"I wake up at the smallest noise, so maybe we should sleep separately?"
And now it's making it harder to get pregnant. I'm starting to feel down about us not being able to have a baby, but despite that, our relationship wasn't so terrible, and I enjoyed being with Scott, so I tried not to dwell on it too much. But 2 years into our marriage, our happiness began to crumble. Will you be home late again today?
Yeah, I have a company party tonight.
I see. What time will you be back?
Not sure. Probably after midnight.
That's pretty late. Haven't the parties been a bit too frequent lately? Scott's late returns and frequent company parties were becoming a problem. He always hung out with his work buddies on weekends, so we didn't get to spend much time together, and it annoyed me. But Scott ignored my concerns, saying,
"You wouldn't understand the importance of these company parties because you're a woman. How much the bosses like me at these events can change my career. Please don't complain about work."
Sorry.
Well, I'm off.
Annoyed by my words, Scott slammed the front door on his way out. The slam caused the picture frame from our wedding displaying us smiling to fall over. Left alone, I sighed deeply, picked up the frame, and headed to work. I understand the importance of networking for his job, but I can't help but feel uneasy about the recent change in his attitude towards me. He didn't prepare dinner again. Before, Scott would prepare meals for me and pack them up before leaving for work, but one day that stopped. Eventually, after a short nap, I found myself having to cook my meals. Hey, why haven't you done the laundry? Despite the laundry basket being completely full, it has been left untouched, so I had to remind Scott. Today was supposed to be Scott's turn to clean.
I was busy. It's not a big deal.
It is a big deal. Where am I supposed to put today's clothes if the basket is already full?
Jeez, you're so annoying. If you're going to complain, just do it all yourself.
Scott lounged on the sofa, ignoring me as he played with his phone. I ended up doing the laundry myself, increasing my household burden. We had agreed to share the housework before marriage, but that agreement had collapsed along with Scott's change. He was often out late due to overtime or company parties, and on weekends he went out alone. He had become harsher even when he's talking to me. How did we end up here? A dreadful thought crossed my mind. Is he cheating on me? No, I can't jump to conclusions about him without any evidence. I really tried to get rid of that idea. But Scott continued to change, making it impossible not to suspect him. Hey, what's this? I found a colored lip product on his suit, typically worn to work.
Oh, my lips were dry, so I bought some lip balm, but I accidentally got a tinted one.
He said, his eyes darting around nervously. Visibly flustered, he quickly said,
I'm so tired. I'm going to bed.
And ran to his bedroom. It was obviously suspicious, but if he claimed it was a mistake, that was that. I couldn't press him any further, so I decided to let it go at that moment. But on another day, a substantial amount of money had been transferred from our joint account to Scott's personal account. Scott, why is money from our joint account being transferred to your account?
I overspent this month, but it's no big deal.
It is a big deal. Don't use the money without my permission. We need to save for the future.
Are you seriously giving me another lecture again? Sorry, I'll be more careful.
He said that and retreated to his bedroom again. But the following months showed continuous, unauthorized withdrawals. Scott, did you take money from our account again? I told you to stop, right?
It doesn't matter. We don't have kids anyway.
I almost raised my voice to say, we don't have kids because you're not trying, right? But I held back. That's not the issue. I don't understand why you need to spend $1,000 to $2,000 a month just because we don't have kids. What are you spending it on?
Why do I have to explain how I spend my money to you?
My husband argued back angrily. Even when we argue like this, he never puts down his smartphone. Whether he's going to the bathroom or just around the house, he always has it with him. It's like he's married to his phone, not me. Can you at least put down your phone now? Look at me when you talk. I couldn't help but let my emotions spill over.
Enough. You're so annoying. Just let me be.
With that, he retreated to his room while still looking at his phone. He tells me to let him be, but he's doing whatever he wants. Where has the husband I loved gone? I can't even remember the last time I saw him smile with those dimples I loved. At home, he's always irritable. The traces of his kindness have vanished. What did I even like about him? I'm beginning to realize that my feelings for Scott are fading. I find myself questioning whether I should divorce him. One day, my nursing school friend Mia asked, "Want to catch up over a meal? It's been a while." "Yes, I'd love to. It's been so long. Where should we meet? Your place or mine?" "Actually, let's meet near my workplace this time. I'm sorry, but could you come over here? And let's meet around 3 p.m. Mia, like me, is a nurse, but she works in OBGYN, so she suggested meeting at a cafe near her clinic. It was unusual for us not to meet at one of our homes and just hang out, especially not at lunch or dinner time, but at 3 p.m. I found it odd, but since I was looking forward to seeing Mia, I didn't think much of it until the day of our meeting. When I arrived at the cafe, Mia was there, looking down more than usual. "Is something wrong?" I asked, sensing the unusual atmosphere. Mia paused, then spoke heavily. "Just watch outside the window without asking me anything." Through the window, I could clearly see Mia's workplace. I began to understand what she meant, and we sat in silence, staring outside. That's when it happened. As we looked, I spotted my husband at the clinic with a pregnant woman I didn't know. I see. Yeah, I kind of had a feeling about this. Tears welled up, and my grip on my coffee cup tightened. "Mia, it's a nice day, isn't it? It's really warm and the temperature is perfect." As I spoke, tears started rolling down my cheeks. "Vanessa." Mia held my hand. She probably didn't want to know either that her friend's husband was having an affair. Mia had been at the wedding where Scott and I met. She was right there when he approached me, so she knew his face and name. Now it all made sense why she called me. My husband wasn't just visiting any woman at the maternity clinic. He was there with another woman. I'm going to leave now. I can't just give out patient information because I'm your friend. I'm sorry this is all I could do. You should talk to Scott. Thank you, Mia. I'll talk to him. And call me if you need anything, okay? I'm always on your side. Now wipe your tears before you go. Saying this, Mia wiped my tears with her handkerchief. She had always been like an older sister to me since our student days. I thanked her again and waited outside the maternity clinic for the two to emerge. When they came out, I hurried over to them. Congratulations on the pregnancy, Scott. You two really look great together, I said with a forced smile. They were shocked and gave each other a quick look. Scott? Is this your wife? She didn't seem to recognize me, and Scott turned pale.
You? Why are you?
Normally glued to his smartphone, now he was staring right at me. What about you? Weren't you supposed to be at work today? I asked with a smile. Scott stuttered, trying to come up with an excuse, and then blurted out.
No, this is just my friend's girlfriend. I came along to support her.
What a total lie. I just sighed at his lame excuse. But my husband's remark caused the woman next to him to exclaim, What? In anger. She sharply reprimanded Scott, who was trying to casually brush off the situation with a stern voice. Scott, you said you were going to divorce your wife.
Yes, that's right, but I haven't talked to her about it yet.
Oh, really? Divorce? That's news to me. Scott, you haven't told her anything? Cornered by both his wife and mistress, Scott was at a loss for words. Let's not talk here. How about we move somewhere else? I led the two of them back to the cafe where Mia and I had been earlier. None of us started talking immediately. Instead, we each ordered a coffee to calm our nerves. During the whole time, my husband was avoiding eye contact with me and staring at the table instead. But in stark contrast, Lucy was looking straight into my eyes. My name is Lucy. I'm in a relationship with Scott, and as you just saw, I'm pregnant with his child. Please, divorce him immediately. Even in front of his actual wife, she was unfazed, demanding a divorce with such entitlement that I almost choked on my coffee. Lucy's eyes were dead serious. It seemed like she viewed me as the ultimate challenge, like a final boss in a game. Trying not to be overwhelmed by Lucy, I clenched my fists under the table and managed to keep my composure. When did you and Scott start seeing each other? I asked. It's been a year. A year ago. That's when Scott's overtime suddenly increased. It was also around the same time he started becoming distant. So she was the person he became cold towards me. The tinted lip balm in his pocket, the withdrawals from our joint account. It was all because of Lucy. Now thinking that, there were too many signs. The dots in my mind started to connect. Wow, a whole year. And what does Scott want to do now? Hearing this, Lucy glared sharply at my husband. Feeling her stare, Scott visibly flinched. Lucy had Scott eating out of the palm of her hand. Seeing how cocky he was at home made me so annoyed.
Well, since it's out, there's no helping it. I want a divorce. It's unfortunate, but what can we do? There's a child on the way.
Exactly. For the sake of the baby in my belly, please divorce immediately. Both my husband and his mistress, now bold, began pressuring me together. My feelings for Scott had been fading, that was true. But why should they dictate the timing of our divorce? You two. Just as I was about to speak, Lucy interjected. I'm in a stable period now, and we're planning to go on a honeymoon next week, before the baby comes.
Hey, don't say that.
A honeymoon? They were planning this while Scott was still married to me. I was utterly appalled. Everything's out in the open now, isn't it?
Well, that's true. Vanessa, that's the deal. We're planning to lie about it being a business trip, but we're going on our honeymoon next week. Their statements were so absurd that I was speechless, a question mark practically floating above my head. Was my husband always this dumb?
Feeling indifferent, I said, "Fine, go ahead." Upon hearing this, the two exchanged a glance and suddenly smiled, beginning to hold hands.
Really? Yes. Lucy, we're free now.
So I don't have to hide anymore? Can I post lots of photos with you on social media?
Well, maybe not on social media. You never know who's watching, and it might look bad if it seems like I got another woman pregnant right after I get a divorce.
You want to hide our relationship? That's terrible.
Sorry, my bad. Don't be mad.
All of a sudden, they started a lover's spat right in front of me. What was I even witnessing? I'm going to leave. Scott will handle the necessary paperwork later. With that, I left the cafe, leaving the two behind. I thought to myself, Lucy really seems like a handful. Thinking this almost as if it were someone else's problem, I went home. I had become completely indifferent to everything. That night, my husband did not return home. Not just that night, but a week passed without him coming back home. He said he wanted a divorce, but without him coming home, we couldn't even discuss it. As I stared at the calendar, I remembered that they were supposed to be on their trip since yesterday. I thought to myself, they planned to talk about the divorce after returning from their trip, I guess. However, that day, a thick envelope arrived at home. The sender was Scott Brown, my husband's name. Opening it, I was baffled. Inside were dozens of divorce papers. Why are there so many? Counting them, there were exactly 33 divorce papers. Moreover, 15 of them had photos of my husband and his mistress enjoying themselves attached. And on another 17, there were phrases like, "Divorce Scott quickly," or "I've included plenty to avoid any mistakes," and "For our child's sake, hurry up and leave," presumably written by Lucy. Other papers stated, "That house of yours is for me and my child now." That house meant for my husband, his mistress, and their child? I couldn't understand how they thought this was acceptable. I was furious at her audacity, and she even sent this during their honeymoon. She didn't even give us time to talk, just sending these papers trying to force a divorce. Nice try. Get ready for what's coming. I felt something snap inside me. It was unclear if my husband knew about this, but since he signed them, I guess that means he was okay with me filing them. I immediately submitted the divorce papers. Later, perhaps back from their trip, my now ex-husband called.
Hey, what the hell is this?
He was frantic as soon as I picked up the phone. I had a pretty good idea why he was panicking, but played dumb. What happened?
What happened? When I returned from the trip and finally came home after a long time, our house was being demolished. What's going on? Explain this to me.
Actually, on the day I filed for divorce, when they returned from the trip, I wanted to teach my ex-husband and Lucy a lesson. I remembered that woman claiming she would take the house. To really show them, taking the house seemed like the most effective measure. So I spoke to my mother-in-law saying, "I have something to discuss with you. I have been consulting with my in-laws about my husband's misconduct. Although my relationship with my husband was not good, I had a good relationship with my in-laws and thought they could help me." When I explained the situation, my in-laws were furious and asked me to send all my husband's belongings to their home.
I can't believe he got his mistress pregnant. A stupid son like him should be taught a painful lesson,
they said, promising to help in any way they could. I immediately sent all my ex-husband's belongings to his parents' house. I left it to my in-laws to handle from there. I also moved all my belongings and completed the procedures to demolish the house entirely. By the time my ex-husband returned, the demolition had already begun. In about a week it will be completely cleared.
What?
Lucy said she was getting the house, so I demolished it. There's no way I could let that woman and her child live there with you.
Don't be ridiculous. How could you do something so dumb? That house and the land it's on are owned by my dad. You had no right to do anything to it.
Yes, I know that. That's why I consulted with your dad. He also said that a stupid son who cheats and impregnates his mistress should have his house demolished.
Did you talk to my parents about this?
Yes, I told them everything. That you cheated and that she's pregnant. They were quite angry.
What have you done? I was supposed to live there with Lucy and our child starting next week.
I don't care. Oh, and our divorce is finalized, so don't call me again. If you need to talk, contact me through a lawyer.
When did we get divorced? I didn't hear anything about this. What do you mean, lawyer?
What? Lucy sent a bunch of divorce papers. I filed them right away. Plus, she included lots of photos as evidence of your affair. So the divorce proceedings went smoothly. Say thanks to her for me.
She did what? What is she doing? Please, we have a child on the way, and now there's no house. Lucy only has a part-time job, and we really don't have any money. Please don't ask for compensation, I'm begging you.
I told you I don't know anything about that. I'll be claiming a substantial amount in compensation from both you and Lucy, so be prepared. Bye now. I said this and hung up without waiting for a reply. By now, my ex-husband must be looking miserable. It's a shame I couldn't see his face directly, but he must have realized how terrible his actions were. After that, my ex-husband kept calling, but I ignored all his calls. Eventually, he had to pay me $25,000 in compensation. Considering my ex-husband's inability to save, it seemed unlikely he could easily pay such a large sum, but I made sure he would pay through a lawyer. He probably hoped to rely on his parents, but they had said, "No matter what, we will not help a stupid son who cheated on his wife." So he couldn't expect any help from them. He got what he deserved. As for Lucy, I managed to get $10,000 in damages from her for sending me those divorce papers and photos and for having an affair knowing Scott was married. I thought they would try to make a new start, but it didn't work out between them. After all, Lucy had posted photos of their trip together on social media while Scott was still technically married to me, and their affair became widely known. When the rumor spread, it caused a big stir at my ex-husband's workplace.
I told you not to post on social media.
My ex-husband had scolded Lucy, but she exploded in anger because of that. Eventually, they broke up after a pointless argument. What a stupid ending to their relationship, but how they live is no longer my concern. As for me, I'm still working as a nurse. Being single after the divorce, I somehow feel more at peace than when I was married. My job is demanding, but it's rewarding when patients express their gratitude. After everything was settled, I contacted Mia, who had been a great help, to tell her, "The divorce is finalized. It's all over."
"You did well,"
she said, crying. Having such a kind and supportive friend is truly wonderful. Mia and I have promised to go on a girls' trip together. Although I'm wary of romance for now, I hope to meet a kind and caring man who will treasure me someday.
I'm sorry, I've got an amazing fiancé now. Are you jealous? Envious? Why do those who can only look down on others become so ugly? Her once cute face now appeared distorted before me. Not only me, but my sister and her husband also looked down on my husband. My anger reached its peak, surpassing the limits of my patience. My name is Luna. I work at a printing company and I'm 27 years old. Although I say printing, I'm not operating large machines. I work in the design department. I design various flyers and catalogs while listening to customers' requests. Recently, with the advancement of digitalization, the number of prints has decreased, but the design work is still busy and rewarding. Thankfully, I have more customers requesting me specifically. The flyer for the Christmas event we had recently was a big hit. It was so cute. It really makes me happy to receive such compliments. This job is like a life purpose for me. I thought I would remain single, dedicating my life to work. Until one day, my father was hospitalized for appendicitis. On a visit to see him, a young doctor named James approached me and asked, "Hello, are you here to visit someone?" It turns out he is my current boyfriend and recently became my fiancé. You never know when and where life will bring unexpected encounters. Despite being devoted to work, as soon as the marriage was brought up, I found myself buying wedding magazines. I guess I'm also getting carried away. Sitting in the living room, flipping through a magazine while having tea, it then happened. A hand suddenly reached out. The magazine was snatched away. Hey, wait a minute! What's this? A wedding magazine? Why are you looking at something like this? It has nothing to do with you, Mary. Suddenly, my younger sister Mary took the magazine from me. You getting married? Seriously? Look in the mirror first, will you? You should know your place. You don't even have a boyfriend, let alone getting married. On the other hand, I've never been without a boyfriend. Oh, speaking of which, my current boyfriend, even though no one asked, my sister began bragging about her boyfriend. She has always been like this. Unlike me, with my plain face, my sister has a very cute face. She has always been popular. The people around her always indulge her, except for our parents and me. Everyone around her is always a yes man. As a result, my sister started thinking of herself as the center of the world. The arrogant sister I grew up with began looking down on me. Stay away from me. Your face might rub off on me. No matter how much you study with that brain of yours, you won't get good grades. Why don't you give up on pointless efforts? Oh, I got asked out again. It's so tough being popular. I envy my sister who doesn't get any attention at all. She would continue saying such things. Even if our parents scolded her severely, it was already too late. Her personality remained unchanged, and the verbal abuse towards me never stopped. Growing up, my sister now refers to me as you. Tired of my sister bragging about her boyfriend, I sighed and mustered up the courage to speak. I do have a boyfriend. In fact, we're engaged. We're getting married soon, so I'm looking at wedding magazines. My sister's movements abruptly stopped at those words. After staring at me intently, she smirked with a sarcastic smile. Oh, really? So you managed to find a curious man. What's so great about you anyway? He likes my energetic and cheerful personality. That's a lie. You're probably just being treated like a maid. I'll continue working, and he understands that I can't be a perfect housewife. As I said that, my sister exaggeratedly acted surprised. Huh? You're getting married and still planning to work? How pitiful, marrying a poor man. Her words struck a nerve. She just can't stop looking down on me. Money is not an issue. He's a doctor, so there's no problem with income. I just want to continue working. As I retorted, my sister fell silent immediately. I sighed with relief and returned to my room. Oh, a doctor. I see. Little did I know that my sister muttered those words with a meaningful tone. When marriage is on the table, the first thing to do is to meet with our parents. First, James came to my house. After greeting my parents, the relaxed atmosphere instantly changed the moment my sister appeared. Oh, is that the person you're engaged to? Quite handsome, isn't he? Mary? Weren't you out? Of course, when my sister's fiancé is coming, I had to cancel my plans. Unbeknownst to her, I was relieved that she wasn't there by chance. It was because I had a bad feeling about it. It had happened several times in the past. When I was still a student, my sister stole my boyfriend. After becoming a working adult, I didn't have a boyfriend, and my sister kept making one after another, so such a thing didn't occur again. Although I felt uneasy about my sister coming back, she had grown up as well. I wanted to believe that she wouldn't do something like stealing my fiancé. My sister was oddly close to my fiancé. I couldn't help but notice the blush on James, my fiancé's cheeks. My bad feeling. Can we pretend that that engagement never happened? I've decided to break up with you and start dating Mary. It hit the mark perfectly. I never thought that even as a working adult, I would have my boyfriend stolen by my sister. I'm sorry I took your fiancé, but it can't be helped, right? After all, I'm cuter and more charming, and James's pursuit was so intense. Oh, being cute is such a crime. My sister's words, which were far from an apology, and her condescending attitude. Next to her, James, who was once my fiancé, laughed and said, Seriously, who would have known that you had such a cute sister? If I had known, I wouldn't have gotten engaged to you. It's a good thing we're breaking up before getting married. The moment I saw that twisted smile on his face, any feelings I had for him vanished without a trace. All that remained was a sense of disgust. I'm glad I didn't marry someone like you, a man who easily moves on to another woman. Here, take Mary as a parting gift. You're just sore loser. Seriously, you're not attractive at all, even until the end. I'm not saying this out of spite, but I genuinely mean it. It seems that the two of them, lost in their own delusions, don't understand how I feel. It's a waste of time being involved with you two. Goodbye. You're just making excuses for losing. You're the waste of time here. I never want to see you again. Goodbye. They left, looking down on me until the very end. After that, due to my enraged parents, they were banned from seeing our family, so I never met them again. However, I heard through rumors that they got married, but I don't really care anymore. 3 years had passed since I parted ways with my sister and her husband, and I turned 30 while diligently working as ever. In the midst of it, there was one customer who took a liking to my work and became a repetitive client. His name was William. As we talked during work, for some reason, he asked me out for a meal. Then, he asked me out on a date. On one of our dates, he asked me to be in a relationship with him. Honestly, I was really happy. William seemed very sincere, and I believed he wouldn't do the same as my previous boyfriend. But, deep down, my sister had become quite a trauma for me. Maybe, just maybe, somewhere it bothered me a little. So I decided to be honest and told him about my sister, about my former fiancé. I even showed him a picture of my sister and looked at his reaction. But even after seeing the picture of my sister, his expression didn't change at all. He casually glanced away from the photo and gave me a gentle smile. I know it might sound strange to say this, but I used to be quite popular. I've met many women who were cuter and more beautiful than your sister. But for some reason, none of them sparked my interest. I used to think that maybe I would remain single and unmarried for the rest of my life, but that wasn't the case. What do you mean? I believe that, due to my line of work, I have an eye for people. No matter how beautiful someone is, or how well dressed they are, they can't match their inner beauty. I realized that when I met you, Luna. What do you mean? I thought you were shining brightly. Huh? When we talk about work, you're vibrant and beautiful. I thought you were wonderful. Not just during work, but when we're having a meal or going on a date, you always smile and enjoy our time together. I could tell that you genuinely enjoy our time together and that you're truly enjoying life. And I thought you were dazzlingly beautiful. What? Wait, this is so embarrassing. In my flustered state, William continued, Luna, you're beautiful. More beautiful and charming than anyone else. I've never met a more wonderful woman than you. Please consider being in a relationship with me, with marriage as a possibility. I truly, from the bottom of my heart."
"Stop! It's too embarrassing. I can't take it anymore."
I blushed and tried to stop him, but William's words didn't cease. In the end, even after agreeing to date, he wouldn't stop showering me with such words for a while. So embarrassing. 1 year later, William and I got married, becoming a happily married couple. Our newlywed life was going well, and I felt like we became even closer than before we got married. We shared household chores whenever we could. Since my husband had been living alone for a long time, he might be better at housework than me. His homemade meals when I was tired were incredibly delicious. On our days off, we often went out together. One day, on a day off when he said he wanted to look at furniture, something happened. It was the reunion with the devil that felt like a nightmare. "Oh, well, I thought I saw a plain-looking woman. It's you," I heard a voice from behind as I was looking at the bedding section. I didn't need to see her face to know who it was. Even though it had been 4 years since we last met, there was no way I could forget her. Mary. My sister was standing there, and next to her was my former fiancé, James. My sister's facial features seemed sharper than before. Is it because of her age, or has her personality come to the front? Standing beside her, James also has a smirk, but it seems like he has lost weight. "Meeting you here, huh? What are you doing?" "Nothing special. I just came to look at furniture. This place has a lot of imported goods and it's expensive, you know. It's not a place for someone like you." I'm tired of my sister's condescending attitude. James nodded beside her. "Exactly. If someone like you keeps coming and going, it will lower the store's value. We might be mistaken for being poor too. Just go home already." I felt irritated by their rude remarks, but it's a waste of time to engage with them. I maintained my silence. However, it seems that my attitude didn't sit well with them, as the voices of my sister and her husband grew louder.
"Ah, I hate it. Our precious high-end store is ruined. Why would such poor people come here? They can't afford anything anyway." That's right. Poor people, go home."
Other customers and store employees glanced at us, as if wondering what was going on. Fed up, I took my husband's hand and tried to leave, but he didn't move. Finally, realizing my husband's presence, my sister and her husband looked at him. "Oh, what are you to her?" "Luna's husband." My sister's eyes widened. "Huh? Did you marry this plain girl? Seriously? You're brave. Did you need a housemaid or something? That's hilarious." I also do housework. It's only natural since we both work. I'm living comfortably as a full-time housewife. More than half of my week is spent eating out. I have money, so I rely on housekeeping services. Sorry for being part of the winning team. My sister spoke with a sarcastic tone, stretching her words, which made me angry. I'm getting increasingly frustrated. My sister is grinning at me. "Sorry I stole your wonderful fiancé. Thanks to that, you'll have a poor life even after marriage, right? And to top it off, you're marrying such a plain guy. You two are a perfect match, both plain and unremarkable. Aren't you envious of my happiness? Jealous, aren't you? Ha ha! Marrying a man who can't support his wife is just like you. You'll struggle for the rest of your life, losers." I had reached my limit. I could bear it when they spoke ill of me, but to speak ill of my husband as well, there was no way I could tolerate it. "Listen, that's enough!" "Luna, it's fine." At the moment when I thought about yelling, my husband stepped forward in front of me. "Nice to meet you. I'm William." the one who married your sister. What a lame name! Well, I understand. Here's my business card since we met. As James took the offered business card, my husband glanced at my sister. Sister-in-law, you say really mean things to Luna, don't you? Because they're true. I'm just abiding by the law that says I can call an ugly woman ugly. That's my law. Such a law doesn't exist. And for me, you're much uglier than you think. What? Let's say it's the ugliness of your character. You seem to have confidence in your appearance, but you don't realize that your twisted personality, which can only look down on others, is reflected on the outside. While the tone was polite, the words were quite harsh. My sister's face quickly turned bright red. Don't mess with me! How am I ugly? Everything about you is. In the first place, beautiful people don't envy their sisters and steal their fiancés. What? When did I envy my sister? People aspire to get close to and surpass their admired figures. Isn't Luna such a figure for you? That's ridiculous! I was surprised, not just by my husband's words, but also by my sister's reaction. I had never considered it that way before. My sister had always looked down on me. But seeing her unsettled, I started to wonder if there was a possibility. If it's someone who doesn't matter, someone you don't care about, you can just ignore them. Even if Luna brings any kind of partner, you shouldn't have thought of taking them away. After all, they are not someone you found yourself. Taking someone else's position stems from jealousy towards something you can't obtain no matter how hard you try. I'm saying I'm not jealous. By taking something away, you want to have the confidence that you are superior to the other person, right? In other words, you lack confidence. Confident people can live proudly without doing such things. That's not true! While desperately refuting my husband's words, my sister's voice gradually lost its strength. Hey, this name! Breaking the momentary silence, James shouted loudly. With a pale face, she alternated between looking at the business card and her husband's face, then shook her shoulder. Ugh, what is it now? This name! I felt like I recognized it, so I looked it up. And... Huh? William Brown? So what? The hospital where I work. Huh? Hospital? If I remember correctly, it's Brown Medical Corporation. The chairman and director, Dr. Brown, he's their son. Huh? What? It's a common surname, so it must be someone else, right? I've seen him come to the hospital a few times, together with the chairman. I saw them from a distance, so I didn't remember it well, but when I thought I had seen him somewhere... He's supposed to be a doctor, right? The company name on the business card. The company name... It doesn't mean that a doctor's son has to become a doctor. And this company, it's a super famous pharmaceutical company. I think the previous generation retired and the grandson took over. Hello, I'm that grandson. Mary and James panicked and my husband bowed. What did you say? Mary and James are pale, and my husband calmly explains. I met Luna through the work I was doing until I took over my grandfather's job. I've heard about you, but it's beyond imagination how cruel you are. That. My husband shifts his gaze from my speechless sister to James. A job of helping people requires empathy. But instead of showing empathy, you look down on and ridicule others. Who would want to be saved by a doctor like that? It's just a misunderstanding. James tried to explain with a pale face. However, in the next moment, my husband's eyes widened with anger. No need for excuses! I'll let my father know about you. Just wait for the consequences.
No, please.
James slumps in disappointment, while my sister remains stunned. We turned our backs to the two of them and left. We will probably never see them again. With that thought in my heart, I continued walking without looking back. What happened after that? My sister's husband, James, didn't get fired, but he faced a significant pay cut and was removed from responsible tasks. Apparently, he had been displaying an arrogant attitude toward others and even had a cold demeanor towards patients, which eventually led to cold stares from everyone around him. It became a precarious situation, and in the end, he quit as if running away. Rumors spread within the hospital community, making it difficult for him to find another job, and he struggled with unemployment. As for my sister, what did she do? It was revealed that my sister had always been reckless with money, and even with a high salary, her life was quite challenging. That's why James became thin. Rather than saying he became thin, he looked emaciated. In response to James's pay cut, my sister quickly decided to divorce him. If James is no good, she can find another man. That seems to be her thinking. But things don't always go as planned. My husband mentioned it, and I also thought the same when we met again. My sister's face, which was once cute, had become harsher. It might be that her true character had come to the surface. Perhaps as a result, my sister's prime time for romantic relationships came to an end. Nobody wanted to be with her. That's what our parents told me when they called. According to my sister,
I'm so cute, so why won't anyone spoil me?
And furthermore,
she managed to catch a good man. I should surpass her.
That's what she apparently said. By she means me. I wonder if it's some kind of law in her country that she has to surpass me. My sister actually admired me. That's what my husband said, and it might actually be true. However, that doesn't mean I can forgive her actions. In the end, my sister, who was rejected even by her parents when she sought their help, faced the consequences of her own actions and disappeared into the nightlife. We don't know what happened to her afterward. I'm sure I won't hear her name again in the future. On the other hand, freed from the curse of my sister and her husband, I enjoyed peaceful days. A calm married life. A fulfilling job that gets me passionate. Every day was fulfilling. And soon, we will become a family of 3. As I gazed at the computer monitor, I gently rubbed my growing belly.
One day, my husband disappeared without a trace. It was only several days later that I found out he had run off with my sister. 12 years have passed since then. After a long silence, my husband contacted me with an audacious demand. I'm coming home with my new wife. You are in the way. Leave my parents' house. Apparently, he doesn't want to see me, who is still living with his parents. 12 years after eloping, with the dust settled, he probably planned to bring my sister home as his new wife. But they still don't know. They don't know how much the feeling of the entire family, including me, have changed in these 12 years. My name is Sophia. I'm 27 years old. I majored in design in college, and after graduation, I joined a web production company. While leading an ordinary working life, I met my husband, John, when I was 25. He worked in sales at the company, and due to the nature of his job, he was very friendly. Attracted by his approachable demeanor, we dated for a year and got married last year. Upon registering our marriage, we started living with his parents, and I quit the web production company to work as a freelance web designer. I chose to work from home, supporting my husband's life while doing house chores. At first, there were hardly any jobs and the income was unstable. However, lately, I have been receiving projects from various places and earning a sufficient income. I work at my own pace and prioritize my family first. In the morning and evening, I eat with my husband and in-laws, and before going to bed, I enjoy some quality time with my husband. I was very satisfied with my current life. However, at some point, my once kind husband began to change little by little. The trigger was 2 months ago, when my income surpassed my previous salary. I was so happy to reach my target that I was restless all day. I couldn't wait to tell my husband. I was sure he would be happy too. That's what I believed. I rushed to the entrance as soon as my husband came home and told him the good news with a beaming face. "John, guess what? My income last month exceeded my old company's salary." "Really? That can be true. Your company paid pretty well, right?" "Yes, but surpassing that was always my goal, and my wish finally came true." "Oh, is that so?" Is that all?" "What? Would you prefer if I said, 'Well, congratulations'?" My husband was unusually sullen and sarcastic. I couldn't understand why he was so upset, so I asked him directly. "Hey, John, are you angry? I thought you'd be happy for me." "Huh? Why would I be happy? It's not like my salary has increased." "Well, that's true, but isn't a wife's joy also a husband's joy?" "What's that supposed to mean? I'm not one of those cheerful guys. Don't lump me in with them." "John?" From that day on, his attitude became more and more indifferent day by day. Our everyday conversation diminished, and it was always from me who greet good morning and good night. Even though we've only been married for a year, our marriage is far from being a happy one. His parents, who we live with, began to notice our relationship, but out of consideration, they said nothing. Even after 2 months, my relationship with my husband remains unchanged. Although we eat our meals at the same time, there's hardly any conversation. He changes the TV channel I'm watching without a word, and eats the food I bought without permission. If I object, his response is always amplified, so I've maintained my silence. One day, midst those days, mother-in-law started the conversation with an anxious look on her face as I was cleaning the house. "Sophia, are you okay?" "Huh? What do you mean by okay?" "Oh, well, you know, when you first got married, you used to go out with my son a lot. But lately, there's none of that, right? Not only that, but it seems like there's hardly any conversation either." "Well, that's true. It's strange, isn't it? We've only been married for a year." I forced a smile, not wanting to worry my mother-in-law. However, it seemed she saw right through me. My mother-in-law looked straight at me with a serious expression. "If you don't want to talk about it, I won't force you. But I'm worried about you. Lately, it seems like you're just putting on a brave face." "Putting on a brave face? I'm not doing anything like that." "Your father-in-law has noticed too. both of us are worried that you are pushing yourself too hard. Mother-in-law. At the end of the day, I may be the one to blame for upsetting my husband over the issue of income. But on the other hand, I felt a bit lonely that he couldn't rejoice in my success. The fact that my in-laws noticed my current struggle and showed concern made me so happy, I almost cried. I decided to tell my mother-in-law the whole story. After hearing everything, my mother-in-law opened her mouth apologetically while rubbing my back. I didn't know such a thing happened. I'm sorry. He's not good as a man if he can't honestly praise someone he loves for hard work. It's my fault, I assumed, without asking, that John would be happy about my success. It's nothing for you to worry about, Sophia. But if we interfere, things might get more complicated. Complicated? I didn't mean to. That's why I think you two should have a proper discussion about this. Do you think you can do it? Yes, I'll be fine. Thank you for listening, mother-in-law. My mother-in-law gave me a warm smile and said it's okay, as she stroked my head. My in-laws who treat me just like their own daughter. They were my salvation from the bottom of my heart. Taking my mother-in-law's advice, I decided to have a proper talk with my husband. That night, after my in-laws had gone to bed, I waited for him to come home. But no matter how many hours passed, there was no sign of him coming home. Normally, he would be home by 10 p.m. at the latest, but it was already past 11 p.m. this day. Why is he so late? There is no reply to my message either. Could something have happened? Worried, I called him several times, but there was no response, only the sound of the phone ringing. Worrying and waiting for 1 hour, it was past midnight when he finally came home. Welcome home. Despite my greeting, my husband only heaved a big sigh and had a displeased look on his face. What? Why are you still up at this hour? Why, I was thinking of having a proper talk with you, John. Talk? About what? Ever since I brought up the topic of my salary, we've been like this, haven't we? I didn't think much of it then, but I might have hurt your pride, John. At that moment, a chill ran down my spine. That's because my husband was glaring at me with a cold expression. I was so terrified that I couldn't find my voice. As if scorning my fear, he calmly threw out his word. There is nothing I want to discuss with you now. Waiting up for me to come home, it's just creepy. Creepy? I just want to build a better relationship with you, John, as a couple. That's what's tiring. I'm seriously thinking I might have chosen the wrong person to marry. Don't say that. Enough already. I'm tired from working overtime. Don't talk to me so casually when all you do is laze around at home. He brushed past me and headed upstairs to his room. Somehow, I couldn't move from the spot until the sound of him going up the stairs faded away. Why would he say such a thing? All I want is a normal married life. Even though my mother-in-law encouraged me to do it, nothing is resolved. Seeing his attitude, I don't have the courage to propose another talk to my husband. I felt as if everything about me was being denied, and it hurt. Even after 2 months, there was no conversation with my husband, and the days just passed uneventfully. Then, one day, my husband disappeared. Looking around his room, I suddenly felt something was off. Huh? Was John's room always this clean? My husband is not exactly known for his tidiness, but his room was unusually neat. There were hardly any clothes in the closet, and his suitcase was missing. That's when I finally realized he had left the house. I hurried to try to contact my in-laws, but I couldn't reach them. Maybe they were turning off their phone incidentally. Just as I was panicking, not knowing what to do, I got a call from my younger sister, Isabella. Ah, big sis, it's been a while. Isabella? Sorry, I can't talk right now. Your husband, he is not there, is he? What? How? Why would you know that? Forebodings are things that come true. Eventually, she told me an unbelievable fact. Why? Because I'm with your husband right now. What? What are you talking about? At first, it really was a coincidence. I randomly met your husband at the bar. We had a drink together. And I heard that things were not going well between you two. Isabella, don't tell me. I'm dating your husband. We are going far away to get married, so don't get in our way. Going far away? Stop joking around. Bring John back right now. Sorry, but I can't. Actually, I've been interested in your husband for a while now. He's tall and handsome, so sorry. I'm taking your husband. She hung up the phone abruptly. No matter how many times I called back, my sister wouldn't answer. Instead, she sent me a bunch of photos. There were about a few dozen pictures. Some of them were next to each other and others on dates. Either way, it was not something I could bear to look at. A few days later, I received a divorce paper from my husband. When I called his company, they told me he had already resigned. At this point, it's not a problem I can solve by myself. I decided to talk to my parents and in-laws about the situation and ask for their advice. It seems that John and Isabella have eloped. He quit his job without telling me. He apparently wants to divorce me. Once I finished telling the story, everyone present was lost for words. In the midst of this, my father-in-law was the one who finally spoke. Sophia, I'm deeply sorry about my foolish son. I don't expect you to forgive him, and you don't have to. Father-in-law, I don't know how to say this, but I can't forgive Isabella either. To me, you are like a daughter, Sophia. I can't forgive them for hurting my precious daughter. At those words from my father-in-law, both my mother-in-law and my own parents nodded in agreement. It was exactly at that moment. All of us changed our opinion of them by 100 degrees. Apparently, my in-laws had been considering moving due to the aging of their house. We don't want to have anything to do with him anymore. With this incident, they decided to move and kept it secret to their son. On the other hand, my parents decided to cut ties with my sister. Even if she were to come back, they would treat her as a stranger and never allow her in the house again. Someone without morals who would steal her sister's husband is no longer our daughter. That was the opinion of both my father and mother. I decided to take this opportunity to move back to my parents' house. I decided to demand alimony from my husband and sister on condition of submitting the divorce paper. Then, "I'll pay that much if I can get the divorce." Along with his response, several million in alimony was swiftly transferred into my account. With that exchange, I completely cut off my ties with my husband Isabella. It's been 12 years since the divorce, and a lot has happened since then. My in-laws bought an apartment, demolished their house, and sold the land. As a web designer, I've gained a lot of recognition, and my annual income is incomparable to what it used to be. Thanks to that, I've been able to go on regular trips with my parents and live a fulfilling life. One day, while I was busy with work, my smartphone rang. Thinking it was a work-related call, I answered without checking the screen. But that phone call brought back unpleasant memories. "It's been a while, Sophia. How have you been?" John? I'm glad you still remember your ex-husband's voice. His tone was as condescending as ever. "What do you want? It's been 12 years since we divorced, and you're contacting me now?" When I told him off, he let out an unpleasant chuckle. "Well, you see, you're in the way, so could you leave the house within 10 minutes? Huh? What are you talking about? We're strapped for cash, so we're on our way over there. I'm bringing my wife home, so you need to leave my parents' house." It seems he still assumes that I'm living with his parents. After 12 years, he seems to believe that heat has died down and they will be accepted. In the background, "Yeah, get out!" I can hear my sister agreeing with him. These guys really don't know anything. Do they think they will be forgiven just because 12 years have passed? The world is not that forgiving. I might as well show them hell. I took a deep breath, gathered my resolve, and told them, "Feel free to come back. I am no longer at your parents' house." "Really? Did you get kicked out by my dad or something?" "Are you an idiot? Your parents' house no longer exists in this world." "Huh? What are you?" John's voice is shaky and sounds anxious. It seems like they have just arrived at where his parents' house used to be. And John says, "What the hell is this?" He cried out in anguish. To him, I continued mercilessly. "Right after you two eloped, we decided to cut ties with you. Your parents moved away a long time ago, and my parents disowned the women there with you. In other words, there is no place for you two to return to." That's a joke, right? That can be. Believe it or not, it's up to you. Of course, neither your parents nor my parents consider you family anymore. There is no worth being family with scum who trample over people's feelings. That's terrible. We're family aren't we? Who trampled over the feeling of that family? Don't ever contact me again. I'm not going to let you interfere in my life anymore. I hung up the phone as I finished speaking and blocked their contact. This time, I've finally severed the last ties. After that, they couldn't find their in-laws and they visited my parents' house while I was out. But my parents had already disowned my sister. To my sobbing sister, "Who are you?" They repeatedly kept asking her this and drove her away from the gate. Then the two of them knelt down in front of the entrance. "Please, Dad, Mom, forgive us. We have nowhere else to go." Upon hearing my sister's plea, John also joined in. "I beg you to. Our family home is gone. We have nowhere to go back to." "Quiet. You are no longer family or anything else." "That's right, Dad. Scatter salt at the entrance." "No, wait." "Please, father-in-law, mother-in-law." "I have no reason to be called father-in-law by the likes of you. Get out." Because they were so persistent, my father scattered salt and my mother reported them for their nuisance behavior. Since then, they haven't seen them. The two of them seems to be jobless and homeless, and they were begging their friends to lend them money. However, their rumors have already spread, and there was not a single person who would lend them money. In any case, it's almost impossible for them to survive in their hometown. They have no choice but to struggle from scratch in an unfamiliar land. However, they brought it on themselves. Since they've sown their seeds, I'd like them to suffer as much as possible. Needless to say, neither my parents nor I will ever meet them again. Ideally, I hope they live with regret for the sins they have committed.
Do you realize what you've done, sis? It's only natural people look at you coldly since you both betrayed me. You're ready for that, aren't you? In response to my anger, my sister mocked me with her words. Ready? Concerned about others' gaze? If you worry about that, you can't live. As long as we're happy, nothing else matters. You'll keep losing out on happiness like this time if you keep worrying about what people think. In their argument, my husband was smirking and on my sister's side. However, I had executed an outrageous revenge plan on these two, so today I'm going to talk about that. I'm a 28-year-old office worker. My husband, who I married last year, is 2 years older than me at 30. Let me talk a little about my background. When I was little, my parents divorced and my sister and I were taken by our mother, who raised us single-handedly. We've been meeting my father once a month even after our parents' divorce. I don't know what my mother thought, but I loved my father. My mother was always strong and mannish. She was always positive like the sun to us. However, she passed away due to illness when I was in 2nd grade in high school. My sister is 3 years older than me. She was very cute and popular since childhood, even when we were walking together as kids. You're as cute as a doll. Are you sisters? You don't look much alike. People I didn't know often spoke to her. I was tired of hearing insensitive lines from people who didn't realize they were hurting me. Even as a child, I was hurt. Compared to my sister, I wasn't. I was far from being called a doll, and not once was I ever told I was cute by strangers. Throughout my school days, my sister was always popular. Compared to her, I was treated as a wallflower. Still, I was proud of and loved my beautiful sister. I loved my sister, but there was one thing I didn't like about her. She always wanted my things. She would take my clothes and things as if they were hers and bring them to her room. It didn't stop at just things. For some reason, she would exchange contact information with my friends, and if it was just becoming friends with them, that would be fine. But she has always stolen my friends away from me. All my ex-boyfriends were eventually taken by her. I was slow to realize this, but after the third time, I stopped introducing them to her. I dated my husband in secret from my sister until our marriage was decided. During our relationship, my sister, "You have a boyfriend, don't you? I can tell. Introduce him to me. We're sisters after all," she said. "I've decided not to introduce my boyfriend to you because you always take them away from me. I'll introduce him once we've decided to get married." Then she said, "Oh, don't you have confidence? It's your fault for being taken from, isn't it? Because you don't improve yourself that you're being taken from. It's your own doing. Don't blame everything on me." She laughed it off. That attitude made me so angry, and I swear I will never introduce him to her again. After about a year and a half of dating him, happiness suddenly came. He proposed to me in a fancy restaurant, something I had dreamed of. Of course I decided to marry him. Once the decision to marry was made, we had to greet both families. I could no longer avoid introducing him to my sister. On the day I introduced him to my sister and father, as expected, my sister appeared in a dress as if she were attending a wedding. My father also seemed a bit nervous. "Dad, sister, I've decided to marry him." As I introduced my husband, as expected, my sister's eyes were shining. "Wow, he's handsome. What do you do for a living?" She always uses her usual cooing voice. His family owns a food-related business. As an only child, he is promised to be the next president. When my sister found out, she became even more excited. "What do you like about my sister? I'm good at cooking, and I used to do most of the chores after her mother passed away. She's not good at cleaning, and I always had to clean up after her. Oops, did I say too much? I'm sorry." This was within my expectation. Whenever I introduced a boyfriend, my sister never stops making comments that lower my impression. In the first place, I don't dislike cleaning, but I was busy with work, and it had become a routine for me to do a reset cleaning on weekends. I thought he would refute her, but, "I'm surprised your sister is so beautiful. I thought she was an actress, so you're good at housework. Why don't we live with the three of us together?" He was joking with a gleam in his eye. Maybe she was pleased by his remark, as my sister then said, "We're going to become family, so it seems like we should exchange contact information. Here's my number, so message me." Despite being a freeloader who can hardly keep a job, she handed her homemade business card to my husband. It's pathetic. At this moment, I felt my mood drop a bit. I wanted to argue. Her story about our chores was completely wrong. My sister had OCD. Since she has too much free time, she cleans multiple times a day to an abnormal extent. She's also obsessive about cooking additive-free meals, despite not having much money due to her high pride. The meals she makes are mostly steamed vegetables under the guise of tasting the ingredients. While it may be healthy, it's debatable whether it can be called cooking, since all she does is microwave it. Since I started working, I've been preparing and eating my own meals. My father, seeing my sister eagerly jumping at the opportunity, "Stop taking your sister's things and find something for yourself. It's shameful to always be reaching for other people's things. You're not that young anymore, so get married while you still can," he said half-jokingly. My sister, with her face turning red, got upset. "I won't be lectured by a divorced man. This is upsetting. I'm leaving." She stormed out. My father said, "Don't worry about your sister. I'll take care of it. Please make her happy. I've caused her a lot of trouble. Please take good care of my daughter." He bowed his head to him. My husband also. "Leave it to me. I will definitely make her happy. I look forward to our future together." He bowed his head, and as if the previous incident never happened, the happy time continued. Then we greeted his parents. "Nice to meet you. We have decided to get engaged. I hope for your guidance in the future. Thank you." When I said that, "Oh dear, you seem nervous. No need to be. You're such a beautiful bride. I'm so happy. It's like I suddenly gained a daughter." My mother-in-law welcomed me warmly. My father-in-law also. "We're a small company, but we'd like our son's wife to work with us. We're not forcing you, but could you consider it?" I had heard this proposal from him beforehand. I'm currently working in an office, so it's my area of expertise. Yes, he told me about that. Of course, if there's something I can do, I would love to give it my best shot. I look forward to working with you, both professionally and personally. When I said that, my mother-in-law, "Oh, I'm so happy. We've been winging it with the office work, so having you here will be a great help. Likewise, we look forward to working with you in all respects," she told me. At this time, I was completely enamored with the dreamy idea of marriage. Because I don't have a mother and I don't get along with my sister well, we decided not to have a wedding ceremony. Of course, we barely had enough money for the wedding. After registering at the city hall, the two of us officially became a married couple. With marriage, I started working at my father-in-law's company, so I resigned from my previous job. I was supposed to have a happy daily life. However, after starting to live with my husband, something began to bother me. It's his tendency to take day off from work at the drop of a hat. He's completely spoiled because his parents run the company. His parents are so used to it that they don't say anything even when he takes a day off. Then one day, when my husband skipped work, an incident happened. On this day, I forgot my smartphone at home and went back to get it during my lunch break. There were pumps in the foyer. My heart wasn't just fluttering, it was pounding painfully. Moreover, those pumps were the ones my sister had taken from me before. I understood the situation instantly. I decided to go outside and pretend I hadn't seen anything. My husband acted as if nothing had happened that night. I have absolutely no trust in him anymore. My sister, as usual, insists she's popular, oblivious to the fact that she's just being played by her numerous lovers. Wanting to know more about my husband and my sister, I hired a private investigator. A month later, the investigation results blew me away. My sister had been involved with 7 men in a month, except for my husband. Furthermore, all of them were married. My sister has never worked a full-time job in her life. Even if she does work, it's part-time and she can't seem to stick with it, perhaps due to her high pride. If she gets reprimanded, she won't go to work the next day. When she was younger, she had multiple sugar daddies. She used to mock me for working and earning money, confidently stating, "As long as a woman is cute, she can survive." Perhaps she felt the limitations on relying on sugar daddies as she aged. Yet unable to stand on her own, my sister yearned for a wealthy husband and fell into the trap of easy matching apps. She would catch a rich man and start dating. However, all of her partners were married. She was merely a plaything for them. Oblivious to this reality, my sister probably thought she was popular at the time. As a result, my sister was having an affair with 8 men, including my husband. The thought of sharing the same air as such a husband disgusted me. I brought up divorce. My husband, "Huh? Do you want a divorce? If you're okay with it, then it's fine by me. I'll give you a divorce, but since you're the one bringing it up, there's no consolation money or anything, okay?" As expected, he brazenly agreed without hesitation. I then said, "You've been having an affair with my sister, haven't you? I know about it. How could you do something like that, having an affair with your wife's sister?" He then responded, "Oh, well, that makes things easy. I'm going to divorce you and remarry your sister. My parents know about it too, so it'll be quick. I'll get your sister over here right away to be a witness for the divorce papers." He called my sister and she arrived in just a few minutes. Seeing my sister only made me angrier, and I said, "Do you understand what you've done, sister? You both betrayed me, so of course people are going to look at you coldly. You're prepared for that, right?" My sister, trying to assert dominance and mocking me, responded, "Prepared? Worried about people's gaze? If I cared about such things, I couldn't live. If we're happy, who cares about anyone else? If you keep worrying about what others think, you'll let happiness slip away just like this time. I'm also going to cut ties with you while I'm at it. I've taken your place as the president's wife." In a way, I was relieved. The sister I loved so much in my childhood is no longer here. If our relationship is going to be severed, I'd gladly severe it. The divorce was finalized without a hitch. They even readily signed divorce papers. I then said, "I don't need consolation money. In exchange, please never show up in front of me again." Then my husband replied, "Wow, you're a lifesaver. This is a peaceful divorce, huh?" He said, grinning. We were renting the place where we lived, so there were no assets to divide, and we hardly had any savings to begin with. The meager savings we had ended up being given to me as moving expenses. Then my in-laws made their appearance. In fact, I had told my in-laws everything before this discussion. While surprised, my mother-in-law said, "I love you dearly, and I want you to be happy no matter what. You're not thinking of quitting your job, are you? If you're uncomfortable staying there, I understand, but I'm going to support you with everything I've got, so please reconsider that." Then my father-in-law said, "Our son is good at nothing, so me stepping down as president is still a long way off. Your work ethic is something our company needs," he said. They arrived a bit earlier than the time we had arranged, unable to stand the suspense. My father-in-law said, "I've had enough of you. You can't even do your job properly, and you have the gall to have an affair while skipping work? Pathetic." Then my husband responded, "No matter what you say, I'm the only child, so I'm the next president. By the time it's my turn, it'll be the era of AI, so it's pointless to learn anything now. Everything will be done by AI." He mocked. My mother-in-law also angrily said, "You don't even work, so don't you dare talk so arrogantly. You don't need to show your face here for a while. Come back when you've reflected on your actions." Then my sister said, "Lucky us, we get an official break. We'll go on our honeymoon." She was ecstatic. The situation was getting out of hand. I decided to stay at my in-laws' house until I found a place to live. The next day I filed the divorce papers. Finally, I was single again. And this is where my plan came into play. At the same time I submitted the divorce papers, I sent a certified letter to my sister's extramarital partners. When my sister was hit with demands for compensation from the wives of her 7 lovers, she pleaded with my husband. "Here's the condition for our marriage. Pay this compensation. As the future president, you can easily get this much money from the company." Pleading. However, my ex-husband doesn't work, so there's no way he has any money. There's also no way he could take money from the company. He finally got his senses back and was furious to find out that she had relationships with 7 men besides him. What he faced was a massive demand for compensation from the extramarital partners. Their future was pitch black. They had a big fight apparently, but that was not the end of my ex-husband's misfortune. A few days after I reported the divorce and my sister's affair to my father, we were having a meal together because he was worried about my health. When I casually mentioned my in-laws' company to my father, he said, "The president of that client company is my old friend. What a small world. We still go out drinking together frequently. When I divorced, he was the one I consulted the most. He even performed a special act as my friend at the wedding ceremony with your mother." The relationship with the president of the client company was revealed. My father, who was angry about this incident, had also told his old friend about the divorce. He was furious at how irresponsible my ex-husband was. Once that became clear, my father contacted his old friend. He was drinking nearby and arrived immediately. It was the president, whom I met several times at work. "It's truly a small world. I can't forgive the guy who hurt your beloved daughter. I'll take action immediately, don't worry. Nobody but him will suffer." With that, the conversation was quickly wrapped up, and the topic shifted to the childhood stories of my father and the president. The next day when I went to work, my father-in-law seemed a little frantic. "I was told by the client's company that a company can't do business with another company where the son is the president. On top of that, their affiliated companies have also proposed to stop dealing with us," my father-in-law said. My mother-in-law said, "Well, it's only natural when they hear about a divorce like this. Trust is the most important thing for a company like ours. When I tried to contact the client's company, it's okay. This is not your fault at all. It's a consequence of their own actions. That lazy son who doesn't work anyway. It's only natural for the company to let him go. We have spoiled him too much. He's always been absent without notice or just slacks off, even when he does come to work. On top of that, he suggests that jobs that require manual work can be done by AI. He's no longer needed in our company. If we leave it to him, the company will go bankrupt." With that, my father-in-law chimed in. "You're right. If he takes over, the company will just go bankrupt. I have a proposal, though it's a bit earlier than planned." "Can I tell her, dear?" When he asked her, "This is the best timing. Go ahead, dear." Then my father-in-law said, "This is something we had discussed before the divorce, but our son is embarrassingly useless. He's a burden to the company, so we want you to learn various jobs over the years as the future president. This proposal is not about blood ties, but for the sake of protecting our important company. We hope you'll accept." I was taken aback. I have no confidence, but I love my parents-in-law. I want to help them, so I immediately replied, "I will do whatever I can. I would like to be help to you both. Please let me continue to work hard in this company. And I want to become someone who can protect the company over the years. Thank you in advance." Upon hearing this, both of them were overjoyed. Even though we're no longer a family in the traditional sense, I'm glad to have a deeper relationship with them. With that settled, my father-in-law called out to my ex-husband. Sensing an unusual atmosphere, my ex-husband appeared unusually quickly. I explained the circumstances. My ex-husband, who has been lounging about being the next president, started yelling at me when he found out that I was taking over his position. Playing the victim, are you? Ugly women like you need to have a good personality to survive. You're taking over my company. I have no intention of giving in. Before I could retort, my father-in-law stepped in. How dare you talk to the next president like that? You're nothing but a ghost employee who doesn't even work properly. We don't need such employees in our company anymore. You're fired. At that statement, what the hell? I don't want a sinking ship of a company like this. I quit. Give me a severance pay of $7,000. He was talking nonsense. It felt like talking to a child who was completely off the mark. My mother-in-law couldn't help but laugh. There's no way we have severance pay for you. If you start talking about that, you'll have to compensate for all the losses the company has suffered because of your mistakes. You can't do that, can you? Then step back quietly. At that, he frowned and said, Shut up. I'll never have anything to do with you again. Even if you come begging in your old age, I'll kick you away. He spat out words that you wouldn't think to say to your parents. My father-in-law responded, no matter how much trouble we're in, we're never going to beg you. Sorry, but our company is doing better than you think. We're not even slightly considering relying on you in our old age. Then he retorted, I'm cutting all ties with you. And he stormed out. We all looked at each other and couldn't stop laughing. My mother-in-law also said, I'm glad we got rid of him. Knowing him, he'll probably come crying for help when he's in trouble. But we won't help him anymore. It's not good for him. My father-in-law, Indeed, well, I'm grateful that you found us a good next president. Also said, It is, as my ex-husband said, a peaceful divorce. From what I heard afterward, it seemed he has broken up with my sister. They probably woke up to a huge amount of alimony. I saw my ex-husband working part-time at a convenience store in the neighborhood once. I was relieved to see him working earnestly, but I only saw him once. He probably couldn't keep it up and quit. As for me, I'm working hard in sales with the president. I love my in-laws who treat me like their real daughter. The company is increasing its clients and hiring more employees to keep it running. I enjoy my work so much. My love luck is at its worst, but my interpersonal luck is at its best. A wonderful in-law family and enjoyable work. My days are now fulfilling. I have good ties with my flawed sister, so there's no trouble at all. Looking back now, I'm grateful for the connection my ex-husband made for me.